Hey guys, I did a video a while back about my my initial impressions of what it was like to own and drive the C4 Corvette. At that time, I had only driven the car just a handful of times, and since then I've spent a lot more time behind the wheel and also taken it on some slightly longer drives. I've had the car now for probably almost exactly 5 months since I first brought it home from the shop. And I know I'm still relatively new to all this, and there's definitely still a lot for me to learn. But I thought it'd be a good time now to do a follow-up video with a few of my additional early impressions of this car. So yeah, let's get started. Number 1, it gets really hot in this car. I know that sounds pretty obvious, but I didn't really notice this in the beginning because for the first few months, the weather here has been unusually gloomy. But once the sun comes out, this car becomes a greenhouse. I've always thought that cars with smaller interiors tend to cool a lot faster once you turn the AC on, since there's obviously less space to cool. But even with the AC on full blast, it's just really hard to bring the temperature down in this car with the sun baking over it. I honestly think I could drive to Cars and Coffee on a really hot day, crack an egg under the rear hatch, leave the car out in the sun, and by the time the show's over, it'll be perfectly cooked and ready for lunch. Now, I know I can always just take the Targa top off if I don't want it to be stuffy in the cabin, but if the sun's out and if you're sitting in traffic or stuck at red lights, then it's going to be baking over your head. You're going to be the one getting cooked instead. So either way, somebody's going to get fried in this car. Speaking of the top, the second thing I want to say is getting the top on and off can really be quite a hassle. The top is obviously really big, it's really heavy, and accessing all 4 of the screws holding it down can require some gymnastics. And if you have the optional second top stored in the trunk like I do, you really have to plan ahead and leave one top at home. So if you do decide you want to take the other top off, then you have somewhere to store it. Now when it's already a really hot day and you're parked outside and you decide you want to take the top off, those extra few minutes of gymnastics and heavy lifting can be really uncomfortable and really exhausting. And when I decide I want to put the top back on, I really have to resist the temptation to get lazy with the screws for obvious safety reasons. But with all that said, is it worth the hassle? Heck yeah. Like I said before, switching between the regular top, the clear top, and no top at all really gives the car 3 different personalities, and I love it. And I know a lot of modern cars can do the same thing much more quickly and with pretty much no effort. Just press a button and it's done. But they're also a lot more expensive, and over time they're much more likely to break down. I know people with convertibles with power tops that are either stuck open or stuck closed, and it really defeats the purpose of having one at all. So you can't go wrong with some good old manual labor. It's part of the fun of owning an old car, right? Okay, moving on to number 3. Fuel economy. It's actually surprisingly good with this car. And I've heard a lot of other C4 owners say the same thing. I know some people are going to say, yeah, this is a sports car, who cares about fuel economy? Well, hey, gas ain't cheap. And when you have to wake up even earlier than necessary to get gas before Cars and Coffee on Saturday mornings, it can be quite a hassle. So yeah, it actually does matter. I've heard some C4 owners say they've gotten 20, even close to 25 miles per gallon on their car. I haven't come anywhere close to that myself, even with mild driving. But there have been several instances where I went on drives of probably close to an hour, and the fuel gauge barely moved. So that's definitely a good thing. Now I do have a concern though. I think I had mentioned this in one of my earliest videos. When I first got the car, there were still a few bars left on the digital fuel gauge, and after driving about maybe 10 minutes, it suddenly dropped down to nothing, and then a light came on saying I was a reserve fuel. It scared the heck out of me. So I know with a lot of older cars, the gauges aren't particularly accurate, so I'm not sure if on this car, maybe the fuel gauge tends to overestimate when it's near full and underestimate when it's near empty. But I haven't drained the tank again since then, so I'll have to wait and find out if this is a recurring issue. Last but not least, number 4. And this is kind of a general item that applies to other cars from this era as well. It's amazing how many small, simple things in modern cars we now take for granted. And I say this as someone who drives ordinary non-luxury cars on a regular basis, and also as someone who makes it a point not to let technology replace knowledge and common sense, which sadly is more and more what our society is like now. I always check my blind spots when I change lanes and look behind me when I'm backing up, even though sensors and cameras will tell me before I hit anything. I always look up directions to places I'm going, even though a GPS can just take me there. So if anything does go wrong, I'll always have a general sense of where I am and how to navigate my way out of there. But with all that said, after getting the Corvette, I gotta say, I'm shocked and actually quite disappointed at myself at how many times I looked to the center console expecting to find a screen there, and at how many times I try to press a non-existent button to start the car instead of turning the key. There's even been a few times when I parked and tried to use my foot to activate the e-brake, only to kick a bunch of air because the e-brake ain't there. And like I mentioned this previously, but my first car way back in the day was a 90s car. And for well over a decade I drove cars where you had to turn a key to start. It didn't have any sensors or screens or anything cool like that. And I had no problems with that. And I still don't have any problem with that right now. But I'm just shocked at how much I've been unintentionally spoiled by a lot of modern technology. And the funny thing is, it actually works the other way around too. There's been times when I spend the weekend driving the Corvette and then I come back to my daily or my wife's car and try to turn a key instead of push a button to start it, and try to use my hand to pull the e-brake, the parking brake, instead of my foot. And I mean, it's not like this car is a classic that was built way before I was born or anything. So I mean, yeah, I know these are all just really simple, small things, but when you add them all up, they really go to show just how much has changed over 3 decades, and just how different a 30-year-old car is from most modern cars today. So there you go. These are my additional early impressions of owning and driving this C4 Corvette. It's been about 5 months. The car still runs every bit as well as when I first got it from the shop. I know I mentioned before, there's been a lot of small issues that I found, minor issues inside that I want to get fixed eventually. But I mean, that's expected of an old car. Other than that, it's been treating me really well. I've gotten a lot of really good feedback on the car when I take it out to shows, and every time on the rare occasion I get to meet another C4 owner, we always just click really well, because sadly there's really just not a lot of people who drive these anymore. And by the way, did I mention I still think this car is super sexy? Anyway, enough rambling for now, and again, any C4 owners out there, I'd love to hear some of your thoughts, so feel free to leave a comment and let me know. See you guys next time.